Good afternoon, Avital.
Hi there, Joseph.
Welcome to the philosophical Antivirus. It has become a common reflex, not only in philosophical circles, but also in mainstream society, to criticize and condone technology, its domination on our lives and our thinking. Now, however justified or not this condemnation is, we are facing today a crisis where we are confined, and the use of technological tools like internet, social media, video communication, etc. is quasi-necessary to stay in touch with our loved ones. We could almost see a new and novel relationship to technology flourish from this crisis. We could almost see technology as a means, perhaps one of the most significant means, to triumph over the drastic isolation we are forced to endure. Is there a new thinking of technology, its use and performative activity dawning here for us and capable of lifting our humanity from this time of confinement, isolation, or reclusiveness? And if so, what could be the gift of this new technology?
Thank you, Joseph. This has been one of my major commitments to consider the question concerning technology, quoting Heidegger, of course, and to understand to what degree we are implicated, inscribed, rewired, disarticulated, and resignified by the technological prosthesis that is no longer simply and never was separate from us. However, before answering your question that wants to seek understandably and laudably some sort of light in our dark corridor here, I do want to say that what is happening is also an effect of technology. There's no outside to technology, and there's no off switch to it. And it not only runs parallel tracks with virological schemes, it also itself has virological impulses and destructive habits. Technology is something that is rigorously ambivalent, to which we owe thanks and need to protect ourselves from. So when you ask me about the gift of technology, I hear that also in German, the poison, the gift, and the destructive runs that the technological epoch is known for. Of course, it would be absurd to deny that this is a saving grace in a moment of isolation and retreat. At the same time, it offers a certain kind of false being in touch that keeps us from getting in touch, meaning with what we'll kind of call ourselves, the imposing realities, whether they are new or whether they are absolutely programmed by repetition compulsion. So a lot of the technological hook-ins and plug-ins and fusional kinds of pulsations erase some of the other tracks that need our attention.
Let me move to another type of question. There's been a phenomena that has hit us very close, actually. You'll see exactly what I'm saying. This is the phenomena of mourning. It seems today, in this crisis, we are losing loved ones, and these loved ones are given a grave, they're given a sepulcher, and yet there are no immediate witnesses to this burial. So I'm wondering, how does this situation of losing someone, knowing this person has a grave, but not being able to witness that very crucial moment of burying your loved ones, how does it affect the question of mourning? How does it affect the work of mourning?
That's a large and important question, and it's certainly tearing one's psychic apparatus apart. It's happened before. There are the phenomena that you discussed in one of your papers of the undead and those who have not been properly buried. For Freud, this whole aggression, the viral aggression that we're undefended against, for which we have no vaccine yet, and this will change, but the whole aggression that comes from nowhere and in terms of strictly scientific considerations that we are trying to recognize and understand and identify and fight against, the whole structure of attack that culminates in what you see as the refused burial is what, in a primitive mind that Freud anthropologically revs up his engines with, is what we ask ourselves. What did we do wrong? Why are we being punished? And Freud doesn't hesitate to start from that perspective, and somewhere in us, when we're chiseled down to our greatest primitivity, we wonder, how did this happen to us? And there are, that this is already an effect, in other words, of having failed to bury the dead. In one of Freud's prime examples, it concerns climate aggression and stormy weather that is seen to arise from the failure to mourn properly or to bury the dead. So especially in the case of failing to honor your dead enemy. So these kinds of calamities that are neither divinely appointed nor coming from elsewhere, but are kind of man-made, revert back to showing us our own destructive failures. And it's the return of a kind of failure to properly bury those whom we aggressed and attacked. I say this in a very condensed form, but I was thinking of Thomas Bernhard, too, who says, there's a moment where you want to recognize, no matter how unmapped and schematic some calamity is, that ich bin die Ursache selbst. In other words, I am the cause. This would be an ethical phrasing. I am the cause of what is happening. Meaning that you, and if we had time, we would read bifocally and see how Freud and Thomas Bernhard and so many others would want to precisely ground a response to the incomprehensible attack that we're facing in a failure to bury the dead. So not only will this have effects and the dead remain undead, unburied, uncared for, uncommemorated, and they join all those others for whom the death of death, as a symbolicity, as an honoring, as a thanking, has been erased violently. So this is not only going to have effects on us, but it is already, for the primitive mind in each and every one of us, or that sector of the psyche that still houses primitivity, it's already an effect of a failed burial. And so this is part of a failed mourning. There's no other way psychically and ethically to consider it. And we've had our little Antigone, Greta Thunberg, warn us already that that we're in trouble and that we're murderers of the earth. Now, I know this sounds like science fiction, but very often psychoanalysis, with its depth and complexity and understanding and a certain kind of hermeneutics that rips open in front of the unknown, allows for things in a Hamletian way that your philosophies have never dreamt of.
Avital, thank you very much, Avital. What is your philosophical antivirus?
Okay, you're going to be pissed off at me, maybe. I hope not. But since this virus is particularly tenacious and aggressive, you have to hit it with a similarly aggressive power punch. So it wouldn't be something that could appease as an antidote, but it has to be a real serious nuking of it, which in my history and sense of history returns me to a kind of violence against minorities and women that are treated as, or mistreated as, or viewed as vermin, as a virus to be expunged, eradicated, aggressively and reactively annihilated. So in some of my identities, and Kafka has brought this to bear in terms of the famous Metamorphosis, one has already been a vermin, one has already been the Daniel Merde of existence, and so one fights a virus with one's own vermin being. Now that's very dark. That may not sound funny or doesn't bring up the lights or airlift us necessarily out of our despair. If I am and have built up antibodies, anticorps, then it would have been to have incorporated with pain and difficulty, but without choice, the very negative and destructive aspects of viral being that we need to fight, which means you have to find the immunitary virus within that will create antibodies and the kind of warfare. Your body is set for war. It's a site of conflict, and it knows how to answer to the pernicious call of hostility when it's asked to do so. Sometimes.
Thank you very much, Avital Ronell.